Hi everyone, welcome to PowerShell for Penetration Testers at Pentester Academy. In this video, we will continue our discussion on porting exploits to PowerShell, and let's have a look at the infamous shell shock vulnerability. You can always create your own CGI application which does not sanitize user input, or you can find a vulnerable ISO here on the Vuln Hub. Just mount this ISO in a VM and you will get a vulnerable application. So I have set up this ISO on one of my lab machines. So this is how it looks like. And I'm assuming that you do know the details of the shell shock vulnerability. Otherwise, read the reference. Right now, we can assume just this, that if we make a web request to a vulnerable application, it does not sanitize various headers of the web request, and it is possible to execute commands by exploiting this vulnerability. So on this web page, let's just quickly have a look at its source and see if we find any CGI bin. Here it is. So we have CGI bin status. So let's just use this. Note that again we need a post request. So let's just modify our previous exploit, and the URL we want to use this time is this. CGI bin status, and we need to create malicious or forged headers like user agent to be able to exploit something on the target machine. And I have copied this malformed request here, so it looks like this. Let's execute a command on the target. Let's ping our attacker's machine using it. So it looks good. Note that there is no need to have parameters here. So instead of doing anything else, let's just pass 1, or we can remove the parameters altogether. Let's call it invoke shell shock exploit. Let's run ID. As you can see, it has successfully pinged the target machine. And now to include our command, let's add it here. Note that though I have not looked at it in detail, while testing this exploit on the VM provided by Pentester Lab, if I was trying to exploit to run any command without this ping, it resulted in an internal server error. So I have not looked at it in detail. So you may want to keep this ping here so that we can execute commands without any error. Now if we run this, let's run who am I. As you can see, now we are able to execute more commands. So this way we can exploit the shell shock vulnerability with the help of PowerShell. We can always change request header here if in case this is patched or something. I'm not going into details deliberately because for those you just need to change a couple of things here. For example, the first patch was bypassed the modification of this part of the exploit. So I'm not going into details. This was much discussed vulnerability. We are just using it as a practice target. So this was a simple command execution edit. Now we can do much more fun stuff. Let's get a reverse shell. Let's load PowerCat and make it listen on port 444. And here, since we are already sitting on bin bash, we can simply say nc 192.168.254.1, that is the attacker's machine, on this port with this command. So now we have a reverse shell from the target machine. Now it is up to us, since we are still a low privilege user, it is up to us to do various stuff on this. When we are onto it, an interesting thing I noticed while playing with this VM was we can simply escalate our privileges using this. In fact, this has been mentioned in a write-up of this VM as well. So if we run sudo s and now if we run id, we are running as root. So you may not get this simple privilege escalation, but shell shock was so widespread that you may be lucky enough to find this in your testing exercise or your penetration test. So this is the way we wrote an exploit for the shell shock vulnerability. Obviously, we can go for much more complex or detailed or awesome vulnerabilities, but we have to start somewhere. As said already, practice for various vulnerabilities wherever you find one which could be ported to PowerShell, and slowly you can start writing complex exploits in PowerShell. For example, you can read this interesting exploit of this privilege escalation vulnerability in Windows by Casey Smith, which uses multiple PowerShell scripts, and it is multiple PowerShell functions in a script, and it is very informative. So that is all for this video. Hope you enjoyed exploiting shell shock. If you are enjoying your time at Pentester Academy, please recommend us to your friends and colleagues in the information security community.